I thought Triple G showed his age as he scored a ninth round stoppage over Ryota Murata Friday night, in a bout that was competitive for the first couple of rounds. Murata was able to tag Triple G on several occasions with long rights and lefts to the body, and it looked like Triple G was breathing heavy as early as the second round. At the age of 40, Golovkin still has enough in the tank to beat a guy like Murata, but the Japanese champion was tailor-made for him. Murata is a really limited guy. He threw the same 1-2 combination over and over again with no variation in his punch selection. He just stayed in front of Triple G and waited to be taken to the guillotine. Murata is also no youngster at 36 years old and was coming off a 2.5-year layoff. So he was clearly someone who, I'd be hard-pressed to see going more than 4 rounds with Triple G in his prime. So it was Triple G's experience and power that ultimately got him the victory here. But here's hoping he doesn't get that trilogy fight with Canelo. Canelo is 8 years younger than Triple G and has improved markedly since their encounters in 2017 and 2018. The only intrigue in a trilogy fight would be if Triple G would be able to last the distance with Canelo. And I think he'd get beat up really bad if they were to meet again. Moving on to the ESPN fight card, Mikaela Mayer continues her undefeated run in decisioning Jennifer Han over 10 rounds. Mayer is long, tall, and strong, and she bears down on her opponents and forces them to submit to her pressure over the course of the bout. Jennifer Han is 38 years old and looked about 2 divisions smaller than the 31-year-old Mayer. Han was a brave gal as she took some punishment in this fight, got bloodied up pretty good, but she simply didn't have the firepower or the technique to trouble Mayer. Mayer is looking to unify against Alicia Baumgardner and then perhaps face the winner of the Katie Taylor-Amanda Serrano fight. What little I've seen of Baumgardner is that she looks a little small compared to Mayer and doesn't seem as if she'd be able to match Mayer's punch volume. But Baumgardner is a rarity in that she has power, so that is an intriguing matchup. So it seems like women's boxing is starting to heat up a little bit, although it has yet to have a breakout star in the same way MMA had Ronda Rousey. It looks like female boxing has quite a few candidates that could possibly become a superstar in the sport. Like I said, there's Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, Mikaela Mayer, Sinisa Estrada. There's some good fighters that can possibly transcend the sport. Of course, Christy Martin was the pioneer, and an argument can be made that Layla Ali did transcend the sport, but her popularity was more because of her last name than any particular fight or any particular achievement. I'm not sure if Mayer is going to become a superstar, but ESPN and Top Rank are really pushing her, so we'll see. Again, I'm not really that invested into women's boxing. Punching power and technique isn't really the bread and butter for women. The best female fighters I've seen are the ones who have the greatest punch volume and conditioning, and that is something that Mayer has in spades. Now, the highlight of the night and a Fight of the Year candidate was Showtime's junior middleweight clash between Sebastian Fundora and Erickson Lubin. This was a step up for Fundora, and I didn't really know how he would fare against a world-class opponent like Lubin. And wow, talk about a coming-out party. We're in uncharted territory with Fundora, as I don't recall there ever being a 6'6" junior middleweight. The closest thing in history to Fundora I can recall is a fighter out of Panama named Guillermo Jones, who at 6'4" challenged for the junior middleweight crown back in 1998. Fundora is just a physical freak. His size and punch volume look to be simply overwhelming for just about anyone in that division whose last name isn't Charlo. He put a very skillful Erickson Lubin through the meat grinder, just smashing him upside the head with left and right uppercuts to the point where Lubin didn't have any answers by the 9th round, and his cornerman knew it. I also found it interesting that Fundora prefers fighting on the inside, which looks like it may negate his height and reach advantage, but once inside, he's able to generate leverage on his uppercuts and hooks that is just effortless. And that's something that other fighters will find hard to defend against because there's no way you can prepare for that. At the end of the bout, Lubin had multiple hematomas, and it looked like someone tore apart his face and tried to put it back together with a putty knife. That's how bad it looked. What I also found impressive about Fundora was his mindset. In his interviews, he comes across as engaging, intelligent, and it looks like he's having fun in there. So this is a fighter with a huge, huge upside. Also have to mention that I can't help but feel for Erickson Lubin because he was still a bit green when he challenged Charlo and was knocked out by that perfect uppercut. But he spent several years working his way back into contention, and now he ends up meeting this 6'6" slugger the likes the sport has never seen before. So it's another long road back for Lubin. Now the night was capped off by a Ryan Garcia's decision win over an overmatched Emmanuel Tagoe. Didn't know what to expect from Tagoe going in, but once he entered the ring, he looked like a featherweight going up against Garcia, who looks more like a junior welterweight now. Tagoe fought to survive. He was basically a walking mini punching bag, and Garcia just needed to put in the work after being off for over a year. Garcia has obvious speed and decent power, but he's very wide open when he throws his power punches, and that's a flaw he still hasn't corrected despite, the change in trainers. So my take on Garcia overall is that he's still a work in progress, and he and his new trainer, Joe Goosen, need to take his progress slow, kind of like Virgil Hunter's approach with Andre Ward, as Hunter used to tell people that we will sell no wine before it's time, meaning that Ward still needed seasoning, and he was a pro for over 5 years before he began taking on the big names in the division. I think Garcia's ascent needs to be similar. He's just not ready just yet for a tank Teofimo Lopez, Haney, or Kambosos. One of my father's army buddies was a guy named Larry Middleton, who would later become a heavyweight contender in the 1970s. Middleton grew up in the crime-ridden Turner Station section of Baltimore County, and because of his size at over 6'4", Middleton was selected as a school monitor at Solars Point High School. In one incident, 3 punks were beating up one of his friends, and Middleton jumped in the middle of the fight. The 3 men would gang up on the future heavyweight contender. One stabbed him with a knife, another sliced him with a razor across the neck, and the third shot him in the back with a zip gun. The doctor who worked on him thought he should have died, considering how much blood he lost. "I've been fighting all my life," Middleton said. "I've been shot, stabbed, had my neck cut in a fight. I even been hit in the head with an axe." Upon his graduation, Middleton would join the army and be shipped to Germany. Once there, he learned how to write and speak the language. But he still had a lot of hostility in him, and the army psychiatrist told him to take up something physical to get rid of it. So he chose boxing. Middleton later studied art and architecture at the Maryland Institute, getting commissioned by the city of Baltimore to paint a mural of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. Wanting more money, Middleton would enter professional boxing in 1965, but his career wouldn't start off well, as he would win only one of his first 3 bouts. He would then take off over 2 years from the sport, as the doctors discovered he had a heart disorder and a pre-fight physical. "When I was cut off from fighting, I became a different person," Middleton said. "I had no way to release my aggressions. I started exploring my mind and the psychic sciences. I really believed my condition was mental, and I could cure my heart troubles by controlling my mind." Middleton began practicing yoga, and 4 heart specialists later, he was able to resume his boxing career. He would go undefeated, fighting exclusively in the Baltimore area for only $500 per fight. But his luck changed when he was offered a match with former British champion Joe Bugner.
But not too impressively. Tonight he faces 29-year-old Larry Middleton from Baltimore, a man as big as he is, and Bugner is 6'4". We don't know whether he's going to come out here in Nottingham and really try to show that he can put this man away quickly, or whether he's going to be methodical about it, and he's taking a few punches from Middleton in this opening round. One good round now from Bugner, just to leave us convinced that he's got something, and he's in trouble. And he's over. 2 punches, over he goes, and this is a black night for British heavyweight boxing again. And Middleton's doing the Muhammad Ali shuffle. And Bugner now faces desperate defeat. Trying to tell Bugner what to do. On the floor at the start of the last round. And Middleton is very, very tired and hanging on. Bugner making efforts, but left it too late. So which way is it going to go? And it's Middleton who's won. Middleton has won it. And so
Middleton would break Bugner's jaw in the 10th round and crash the heavyweight ratings with the win. Middleton then began adopting a Muhammad Ali-like persona, predicting what round he'd knock a guy out in and which hand he would do it with. In May of 1972, Middleton would face Jerry Quarry in a title eliminator. Quarry would be sluggish throughout the fight, but referee Harry Gibbs would declare him the winner by 1/4 of a point. The decision would draw boos from the crowd, as most believed Middleton won. Middleton attributed the questionable decision to the fact that the powers that be wanted Quarry to face Muhammad Ali for his comeback. The good showing would elevate Middleton to the number 4 ranking in the world, but 7 months later he would be knocked out by Ron Lyle in the 3rd round. Middleton would then take off almost a year and rematch Lyle in front of 5,000 fans in his native Baltimore. Middleton would once again lose, only this time by a lopsided decision. He would then dump his trainer, Mac Lewis, and manager Joe Granby in favor of his uncle, Sylvester. He would get a disputed draw with Jimmy Ellis and lose a lopsided decision to Oscar Bonavena. Middleton would then take off another year from the sport, and upon his return, he would become officially a trial horse, losing to Howard Smith, Dwayne Bobbick, and Scott LeDoux before getting one last shot at the big time in a televised encounter against Ken Norton.
He was during the fight, but he has really fought a good fight against Kenny Norton. Oh, left right combination, back Middleton out of there.
They look at big knockout records of men that just are entering into the top 10, and then all of a sudden, no more knockouts. Because, as I've stated earlier, a man didn't get into the top 10 getting knocked out, and they're very difficult to knock out.
Larry Middleton is bleeding about the mouth now, and a little bit of that right eye. Still trying to move, but he's not jabbing as much as he did earlier. He's got to keep that up there.
He's got to pump that left hand. He's warned by the referee for that low blow. I think maybe he thinks because of him slipping over there that the legs are causing problems. Could be.
What about the uppercuts, Jerry? Are they a hard thing to combat if you know somebody can really hit you from underneath?
Well, sometimes they can be hard punches, but mostly they're ripping punches that can rip your mouth up and eyes and everything else.
Well, this is savage right now. I'll tell you, Kenny Norton now is just saying, okay, hit me, Middleton. I don't think you can hurt me. In the big city.
I would say Norton's going to have to do a lot of hard training for that one, because he is seeing right now that a man was not near the talent of Ali is
Watch
giving
your
him
head
trouble.
and move around a lot and give him a lot of
Wayne Bobbick, all of them are watching.
Larry Middleton is staying on his feet, and he refuses to go down. He's blocked again.
Cut.
Bleeding at the mouth. Rudy Jordan's looking him over, and Norton is working on him, and it's hitting Norton's corner.
Cut in the left corner of his mouth.
Middleton dances out and asks for nothing. Norton now has to have it stopped.
No, he stops about in the 10th round.
Middleton would suffer a ruptured eardrum in the loss. He would sign for a bout with George Foreman, but have the bout canceled on the day of the fight when the commissioned doctors claimed he had cataracts. Middleton would become the first of many fighters to sue Don King, claiming that the promoter signed him for a fight against Foreman, quote, knowing full well that a fight would never take place in the United States or anywhere in the world. Disgusted with boxing and its shady characters, Middleton decided to hang up his gloves for good. Boxing is a stupid way to make a living, Middleton said. Maybe it was just not meant for me. It was mostly my fault. I don't think I was a real killer. Middleton would have a successful career as an architect. He would remain in the sport as a trainer at a city-sponsored youth center, helping troubled kids stay off the streets of Baltimore. Middleton would die in 2014 at the age of 71. I have one question this week from Thomas McCartney. Rich, who do you think would have won in their prime? Monzon versus Hagler, Mayweather versus Hearns? Well, I think Hagler would have chopped down Monzon. Monzon was great, but if he had a weakness, it was that he only had average foot speed, and he could look a bit uncoordinated at times. He was really hurt in the rematch with Benny Briscoe, and if Hagler landed a shot like that and hurt Monzon like that, I think he would finish the job or control the fight from that moment forward. Hagler really only had trouble with fighters who utilized lateral movement, like Willie the Worm Monroe and Sugar Ray, so I don't believe Monzon would have had the style to defeat Hagler. Mayweather versus Hearns, I would favor the hitman in that one. The adage of styles make fights applies here also. Hearns was defeated by fighters who could back him up and hurt him, like Sugar Ray, Hagler, and Barkley. Mayweather is a pure boxer. It is not in him temperamentally to press the action, and even if he wanted to, Hearns' big right cross would make him fearful to come inside. His only option would be to try to outbox Hearns, and no one outboxes the hitman, not Wilfred Benitez, Sugar Ray, or a light heavyweight in Virgil Hill, a light heavyweight master boxer. So I'd favor Hearns in that one, but I think Mayweather would last a distance. It would probably look a lot like Hearns' fight with Benitez. So I want to thank all of you for your support of the channel. This episode is more of a trial run. I'll still be doing the mini bios and documentaries, but I also wanted to add in some commentary on the current events in boxing. So thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.